Right, well today I'm going to do a bit of weed spraying. Winter time here, been a bit of rain, the weeds they keep growing. So today I'm going to tackle them. So now we'll fill up my spray bottle. Got a bit of water here, a bit of rainwater I use. Comes off my tanks. This is like my little overflow tank. Comes off my big tanks here. I usually take the water out of this one when I'm doing some weed spraying or other bits and pieces because it doesn't get used in this tank for anything else. The big tanks pump into the house, but this one here, it just overflows into this and then overflows out there onto the ground once this one's full. So I like to use this water in here. It's all good clean rainwater and it gets to put to a good use. Now I've got a bit of an expanse of land here. Don't worry, I'm not going to be weed spraying all of that. But if I have a look down here in my little stones, this is where I like to get a lot of the weeds, otherwise they just go out of control. So I'll just have a look around here and see what I got. Now here's a little culprit down here. You might be able to see him there, so he's going to get a spray. Then I'm going to take a walk up around here and have a look at what else I've got that I need to be spraying. Across this nice little patch here, what I like to do is give it a good spray. I use more of a direct spray than a wide spray because otherwise it sprays onto everything else, and I like it to be a bit more direct because I don't really want to be spraying the ground where there's nothing there. You're just wasting your poison, wasting your time. You've got to refill it up a bit quicker. But some people like to put a dye in there. I've got a mate uses a dye. He puts this dye into his poison, so when he looks around, he can see where he sprayed, so he doesn't go over stuff. But he does do, his business is a bit more commercial, so he actually needs to know where he sprayed because he doesn't want to be going over things twice. Whereas I just, at home, just go along when I see a bit of green weed, he gets a spray. So that's pretty much how I do it. And we'll just head around because I've got to do all this area here. I've got a big driveway out the front. But I like to keep it under control because otherwise it goes crazy, and eventually I'll get my big mower out and I'll take that down, and that's how I usually keep this big block under control. Got about 5 acres here. So I'll just continue on doing these weeding, and then when that grass is long enough, I will end up mowing it. But in the meantime, I'm going to get these crazy little suckers of weeds. So stay tuned, and as we go around and have a look at that. Now, as a homeowner of some 40 years, I found the best poison for my situation here is the good old Roundup. And I mix that up myself carefully. Of course, you always wear gloves when you're mixing it. And make sure you wash your hands thoroughly and properly. Try not to spray anywhere you don't want it. But I've found that it's quite relaxing spraying weeds. You wouldn't think so. I think what a menial task, especially in such a big area I've got. But I actually find it quite relaxing going around and squirting these little suckers. Some of them are really, really hard to see. You know, they come out, you'll see just here, and they're really hard to see. There's a nice little green one there and one little one next to it here. So I just squirt them because sometimes you can't see them. You'll go over them, you won't know they're there. And a couple of days later, you'll come out and there's the little suckers. But that's because they're just right underneath the stones, or they're very small at that particular stage. So you can't always see them, but you've got to go and do this. I mean, I tend to do this time of year. I'll be going out probably twice a week, I'd say. And that does the trick, as long as it's not raining. At least with this poison, I get 2 hours. And if it rains after 2 hours, I'm still okay. But if it's going to be raining in less than that, no use doing your weed spraying because the poison will be ineffective as such. But otherwise, yeah, I tend to find that if I haven't got rain for a couple of hours, I'm fine. in the summertime when I do this weed spraying, if it's quite hot, which it does get quite hot here in Australia, I'll find that I'll come out a couple of hours after I've sprayed the weeds and they're literally already wilted and just about gone. But yeah, so like I said, something relaxing about doing a bit of weed spraying. I tend to find it's almost rewarding in a way. Now you can get different kinds of weed spray as well. There's one in particular I looked at, I thought about getting, and it's actually a flamethrower. These little flamethrowers you can get, and apparently it just burns those weeds out. They don't come back. But the only thing is, I don't know if I want big black patches everywhere where I've burnt weeds. Okay, out in the open block, over there maybe. But when I'm doing stuff around here, I don't think it'll look too good. So, plus I don't want to cause any bushfires. Yeah. This time of year should be pretty right though. It's pretty wet and cold and not much chance of anything burning, but not in my part of Australia anyway at the moment. But yeah, so let's get around and get some more of these weeds. Thing too with this Roundup that I use, it's non-residual in the soil, so it's not going to leave any damaging poisons. Well, so they say. Who knows? But that's what it does say, and I find it's very effective. It's probably the best one I've used. I've used quite a lot over the years of different brands and everything else, because this one I use is not that cheap, but it's very effective, and some of the other ones just don't seem to do anything, what I've found. I maybe mix it a little bit stronger than I need, only because I figure if I don't make it strong enough, it's not going to work. People say, well, it doesn't matter if you make it stronger, it's going to have no more effect than if you mix it at the right rate. But when I say I mix it stronger, I don't mix it, double or anything like that. I probably just put an extra, 10 or 20% of it into my bottle than I would what's recommended. Seems to work fine for me that way. I want to make sure I get all these weeds. One thing I'm very careful about too is spraying it around anywhere near animals water bowls, feeding bowls, anything like that. You don't want to poison the animals, whether they be wild or domestic. We've got some chooks and a dog and a cat, so I'm very aware that, they don't want to be ingesting any poison. But, generally this stuff dries up pretty quick and gets down to the roots of the weeds. So just thought I'd throw that in because I really want to make sure that you don't spray this around any animals at all. Now, while I was spraying, I noticed I've sprung a leak. I don't know whether you can see it here. It's a bit dark, but look at that. An actual hose there has just ripped open. So what I'm going to do is cut it and reattach it and carry on with my weed spraying. But it's a bit disappointing, but these things happen. So anyway, I'll attempt to fix that now. Right, well, I've done my repair job. We'll see how good it is, shall we? Pumped a bit of air in there, can't see any leaks, so off we go again. Well, as you can see, my repair job was pretty unsuccessful. So I think I'm going to have to try plan B, which is my second pumper sprayer, and see how we get on with that. Right, here's my second pumper sprayer, so I'm going to transfer the poison over into this one and we'll see what happens. So, time for the transfer to take place. I'm going to clean a bit of this mess up and carry on. Righto, so get these gloves on. We'll do a bit of transfer into this poison here. Don't worry, kids, I'm a trained professional. Speaking of kids, there's no kids around here, so I don't have to worry about contaminating anyone. Get all this going in here and then we will have another go. Pretty sure I'm going to have to fill up another one, maybe 2 bottles anyway to get around the property, but we'll see how we go. So yeah, I don't think my repair job on this one was real good. You can sort of see here that that thing actually popped off and no good. But what I am going to try, I reckon, is this top in here instead of the other one, because this one actually seals better, and I think they're the same bottles, so it should do the trick. If I can get this to screw on properly. It's always been a bit dicky. Oh yeah, that goes on good. Right, now we'll have another crack and see how we go. Hopefully this bottle's going to work all right. I don't know if it will, because I did have trouble with it once, but I think it was mainly because of this top here didn't screw on properly. So we'll see how we go. Ah, success, people, success. This one's working. So we'll get around and we'll do a bit more of this weed spraying. Now, the importance of weed spraying, I find, is that if you're going to go away, like we did once in our caravan here, we went away for about 6 months, and when we came back, there was weeds everywhere because there's no one to look after it. We actually had people looking after the house, but when it came to weed spraying and weed pulling, no such luck. So we ended up having to spend a lot of time. But when you keep up with it like I do, like I said, twice a week in the rainy weather, you keep up your spraying, you will find you don't have too many weeds at all. But when you come back and you've got literally weeds that there's no use spraying them because they're so big. Oh, hello. Look, the old chookers are following me. G'day, chookers. How you doing? Don't worry, they won't get affected by this poison. But yeah, so one of the things you've got to do is just keep up your maintenance, especially this time of year. Otherwise, it's a nightmare. And then you spend days and days trying to keep it all under control. Chooks are still following me, eh? I think they must think it's chook feeding time, but it's not yet anyway. But they like to go in early if you give them a feed. But we always give them scraps in the morning, and they fossick around for worms and all sorts of things, bugs, and they give us a few eggs, anywhere between 2 to 4 a day. On a bad laying day, we get one. On a good one, we get about 3 to 4. So that's out of 4 chooks. So, yeah, well worth having them. We like having them around. They're like our pets. Okay, let's get on with this weed spraying. One thing I should say about the chookers is, they heard me say chookers, is my wife's given them all names. She used to like watching that show Charmed. Used to be on TV, and Phoebe, Piper, can't remember the other two, but if you remember the names, leave a comment down below. But yeah, I think I know Phoebe's that one there because she's like the biggest one, and she's sort of a darker colour, and she's almost like the boss. She's very friendly. And then you've got Piper and whatever the other two are called. I can't remember now. I can't tell them apart from the dark one. Anyway, but yeah, nice chooks, these ones. And one of the areas I do like doing is our little backyard area that's fenced off. Keeps the dog in. And I love doing this little area and keeping this all nice and tidy. Lawn's looking a bit dull this time of year, but that's the way it goes. Don't have to mow it quite as often. Normally in summertime when she's in the growing period. In springtime, I'm mowing this thing every 2 to 3 days, but she grows like crazy. This time of year, once a fortnight's probably plenty. So yeah, I do like to get all the weeds around here. Do what I can and keep this as tidy as possible. Yeah, not too many weeds in here, but there's enough. Enough that I need to keep it tidy. One thing you can do is spray down the edges here, but I don't like to do that too much. Maybe I'll give a little, if I've got a little bit of poison on the end, I'll give a little bit of a touch here. I usually whippersnip these off anyway. weed whackers, I think they call them in America. I'm not sure. Saw it in a movie once. But yeah, but I don't like to do it because it usually splashes over and then you end up with these dead patches in your lawn on the edge where it splashed too far in. So I'll generally just whip a snipper or I'll just give it a bit of a touch like this, just gently, you know. But yeah, that's probably the best way to do it, I find. Now, next is my front driveway. Got all this to do here. I like to keep this under control, and then I'll go down the side of the house over there where you see that retaining wall and spray down there, and then that'll be pretty much the finish of it. But I think I'm going to have to fill up with a bit more juice, so I don't reckon I'll get it all done. Like I said, it doesn't look that bad. Like you look at it like this, yeah, it's not much there, but once you start going along, there's a lot of little weeds in there. As I was looking back down the driveway at this end here towards the house, usually walk up one side and then walk back down the other and get as many weeds as I can. I think it is important to do a bit of overlapping when you're spraying weeds, just to make sure that you get everything, Like I said, when you're doing it a couple of times a week or so, you'll find that you'll get most of them because there's some still coming up that you can't even see yet. But overlapping, make sure you get most of them. The chookers are back. Only problem is with the chookers is they poop everywhere. Poop on my concrete path, poop on the driveway. But that's okay. You give me eggs. Yeah, see. Chook poop. Chook poop. Just doing around the front of the house now, a bit of weed spraying here. Being very careful and mindful of these chooks here. But as you can see, they like to make a mess. Well, as I said, I had to do a refill. I reckon I'll get away with this one though. Might even have a little bit to spare. I'll just pop that in there tight as I can get it. That's it. And then I'll give it a few pumps. I like to give it about between 15 and 20 pumps if I can. Or when it feels really hard to get down. Like that. And we're ready to rock and roll. Righto, we're doing the driveway on the downside now. And I think after that, I'll be pretty much done. Just got to do around the side of the house, but you get the drift of what's happening here. See, there's a few little weeds in there. Hard for you to probably see on camera, but they are there. And I'm getting them. And yeah, that's pretty much my weed spraying routine. And hope you enjoyed watching that. Probably a bit boring, really, but that's how I do my weed spraying. So anyway, we'll catch you on the next video. See ya.